What's going on, people? So, I'm going to upload the last chapter of State and Revolution. I decided to make it into a more fancier video. So, I used background from the video that I did about, or that I admittedly took from someone else. The documentary of Lenin that was done by Granada TV, which I believe is a British production. Looked like it was maybe from the 50s or the early 60s. Anyway, I used that footage and used some pre-Russian Revolution Bolshevik music over it. So we'll see how that sounds and get a better idea of what y'all think about that. So I'm going to see how that's going to do. And I want y'all's feedback. I want y'all to tell me what you think about it and say, it's kind of trash. The audio wasn't the best or whatever the case may be, which it isn't because I just filmed it with the, I just used the mic on the laptop because I've tried to plug it in to the microphone. I've tried to plug in the mic and try to do it from there from Wonderware, but for some reason it didn't record it. So it just recorded the audio from, just the mic on the laptop. So like I said, once again, just boomer hours. Eventually I'm a hard-headed fool. Eventually I'll take the hint, like, all right, well, I'll do it this way. So we're going to do that. I want y'all to give me some feedback on that. Next up, though, I'm going to be doing Propaganda by Edward Bernays. I'm going to see how this goes, because this is a pretty short book. The first chapter itself is just 5 pages. So I think, from looking at it just briefly, I haven't even read through this. I think that'll probably kind of be my style. I'm not going to read through these beforehand, which is probably not the best idea, but at least for now, maybe I will read these in the future. That way I can get a better idea so I don't stammer my way through it like I've been doing in these past 2 books, but I'll see how it goes. Anywho, we're going to be going through Propaganda by Edward Bernays from 1928. And we can kind of get a better idea about that. Now, I bought the trilogy of his books. So there's also a book on crystallizing public opinion and public relations as well, which I think do have value and, would be interesting to read. But there's a video I wanted to do. But I feel like it wouldn't really come out quite right, which is just about a history of Shaw Brothers, but from more of a personnel lens, I guess you could say. Because some people will do it from look how people like King Hu influenced directing, doing movies like Da Dui Sha. I know it's Da Dui Sha in Mandarin, or Dai Joy Hop in Cantonese. I can't think. Big Drunken Hero, I think is how it's translated. But Come Drink With Me, that's it. Yeah, Come Drink With Me. With King Hu and how that influenced, the style of it, and how, people like, Yuen Hua and who was a classmate, of course, of Jackie Chan, and people like, Yuen Bun as well, another classmate of Jackie Chan in the 7 Little Fortunes, the Chatsu Folk. And no, I didn't say the F word. That's actually, I'm not sure what that would be in Cantonese or in Mandarin. Chao Xiao Fu? I don't know. I could be wrong. Anyway, someone speaking Mandarin will probably be like, this dude does not know, just because he's watched Kung Fu movies does not mean you know how to speak Mandarin or Cantonese, And that's a fair point. I'm just saying. Well, I'd like to do it from a different standpoint where it'd be like, if I wanted to talk about it, be like, okay, you had Runjia Shah, and Runjia Shah, of course, was the guy who kind of came up with the idea of having Tianyi films in Shanghai, and of course they came from a rich merchant family, and during the Qing dynasty, and they had Runjie, Runde, and then Runmi, and then Run Shah. Those are the 4 brothers. And basically, Runjie and Runda, I think, are, basically they stayed. Is that, once they we're making movies starting in the 1920s. Uh, Run Me and Run Shaw would, run back and forth and do a lot of the schlepping, I guess you could say, doing a lot of that sort of work. And, and they did also, they did movies primarily in the Huangmei opera. And of course, if I knew more about Chinese history, more of the history of opera, you can go into, okay, there's all these different types of opera styles. It's like you can have Cantonese opera, obviously meaning more Hong Kong and, Guangdong province. But you can also have, Wangmei opera. You can have, but they tried to, I think, I can't remember which Qing dynasty emperor tried to combine it all together and say, no, we're going to have one singular form of opera. But anyway, that's a whole different discussion in and of itself. But then talking about it, where basically once the Japanese invasion came, initially they refused to do propaganda movies for the Japanese. But then later on, they were like, okay. They basically just said, all right, just so we don't get killed. All right. And they apparently buried their gold and, all their wealth, that they had in their backyard. And they also had an amusement park as well. So the Shaw Brothers, people, on a basic level, people just think of Shaw Brothers as Run Shaw, who passed away in 2014. And he was like 100 and, how old was Run Shaw? Yeah, of course. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to provide something different for everybody. That's all I'm doing, but I appreciate that, Stevie J. But yeah, just going back to my point and talking a little bit about how that happened. Is that the Shaw Brothers isn't just Run Shaw, who I think was like 112, and then of course Mona Fong, who was an actress herself and was a singer, and then married Run Shaw. I think in 1982. Well, let me back up. I think maybe like 1980, because of course, if you're a Shaw Brothers kung fu movie guy like me, or just Shaw Brothers movies in general like me, you'll notice that there was a point where it said, produced by or co-produced by, Mona Fong and Feng Yat-hua, excuse me. And she passed away in 2016, I believe. So I think it's, there's so much more politics that went on behind the scenes. And that's more the range that I want to go to, because, there's a lot of back and forth, and obviously I imagine in Chinese culture, and specifically, Hong Kong history and, Hong Kong movie history, a lot of that is a no-no. You don't want to upset people like that, especially, talking about the dirty practices, for example, that TVB happened, and that's a little bit further down, but it's like, okay, so you had these four brothers. So you had Run Je, Run De, Run Me, and Run Shaw. And Run De, I believe, died in the 1950s, I want to say. Run Je, after the Japanese were defeated in 1945, they were able to dig up their money, dig up their gold, and they were able to start over. Once the Chinese Revolution happened, and the Chinese Civil War occurred, and the victory in 1949, Ren Shaw stayed in Shanghai. Now, did Ren Shaw die? Because clearly he would be, at least according to what I've read in, a little bit of State and Revolution, did he die? No, Ren Shaw did not die. Ren Shaw was part of the CPCCC, I believe. Let me see here. Let me look up Ren Shaw right quick. That way I can get a better, Ren Shaw. I want to say, he passed away in 1975. Oh, okay. That was okay. I'm thinking of something else now. That was a good little joke, though. I was thinking of something else. Okay. After founding TN, okay. CP. I just want to know what CPCCC stood for. Okay, 1926. Released some important movies. I don't want to really get bogged down in that. Okay, yeah, he married an actress, Chen Yumei. Let's see. After retirement and the communist victory in the mainland, Ren Jie retired from the film industry and stayed in Shanghai. His younger brothers, meanwhile, rebuilt their business in Singapore and Hong Kong. Under Ren Shaw's leadership, the Shaw Brothers studio became, Okay, here we go. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, Ren Jie served as a member of the Shanghai Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. There we go. And the CPCC is, interestingly enough, still around. That I believe that even that name is still around. And Jackie Chan is currently a member of that. So I think that, of course, if you dig up more about Jackie Chan, of course, you'll find out that he's very much, I guess what we would say in the political discourse, the spurgs that we are as a Dangist, is that he's not necessarily supportive of Mao Zedong, but he definitely supports that. For example, his son, J.C. Chan, was caught smoking weed in Beijing. And a lot of stuff went back and forth, but they were basically like, we're going to execute him. And Jackie Chan was like, yeah, go ahead. Like I say, I mean, this is one of those things where I'm sure people have written about it, but the intersection, and dare I use it, now I'm starting to really get more. I'm going to start going down that route, but the intersection between actors and actresses and their activism and how it's just a shallow pond. Because in actuality, actors and actresses and, just filmmakers in general are shallow people who really just feel like, well, we're going to do good things. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I'm just trying to tell the story, and maybe I'll try to make this into a better video. I'm not sure. But anyway, so what happens is, Ren Jie stays in Shanghai, passed away in 1975. He retires. He's married to this Chen Shumei. So Ren De, Ren Mi, and Ren Shaw continue on. So they set up a lot of businesses in Singapore. Now, of course, Shaw V. Meng, who was a son of Ren Shaw, runs a lot of stuff and lives in Singapore. There's a lot of, a lot of Chinese minority, exists throughout Asia and really carry a lot of weight. But that's a whole other story. Once again, that's a whole other video that I could do. But basically, they set up shop in Singapore. So what happens is they basically collect their money and they continue to do work in Singapore and this and that. And they set up shop in Hong Kong in 1957. In 1957, they bought land at Clearwater Bay for a deal. It was an amazing deal. And so they start building what became the Shaw Brothers studio. Now, Ren Mi Shaw, I think let me look at the history here for a minute. Let me look at the history. Ren De Shaw. What happened to him? Okay. Oh, okay. Ren De Shaw died in 1973. Okay. He died in Hong Kong. Yeah. And he went to Malaya. Let me see here. The Tianyi Film Company. Which later became the Shaw Brothers Studio. I'm curious about all the details here because sometimes my mind goes off, folks. Sometimes I can talk to myself for hours. And anyway, oh lordy. Okay. Ren Jie Shaw was the one that started it. Got a lot of money from his, just started it up. But let's see here. But yeah, continued to expand after the suffered setback. In 1957, Ren Shaw moved to Hong Kong, set up a new company, Shaw Brothers Hong Kong Limited, and built a new studio at Clearwater Bay. Nowadays, that's still there. Shaw Brothers today will still made movies even after their so-called end in about 1987. But they just called it. They did Cosmopolitan Films, I think, but then they also just went back to the old Shaw Brothers name and did some movies in the 90s and the 2000s, kind of like Drunken Monkey. If you look that one up, directed by Lau Kar-leung, that's a Shaw Brothers movie, but it's not. It's one of those kind of things where it's like, okay, they dipped their toes in, but they had transferred a lot of different things. And there's a lot of good business stuff in here, I think, and I think that I haven't seen many people really talk about the business angle, and that's really the angle I want to try to go for, because Run Shaw was a very smart businessman and did things differently than other folks did at the time. So of course, let's see here. So opened up this huge studio. They had all these big, huge film units that they were making movies in. And so for the run for about 1957 to I'm going to say roughly 1987, which is really stretching it. I'd probably say more like 1985 would be more honest, I guess. So for about that almost 30-year time frame, they produced about almost 1,000 films, ranging from, of course, Wang Mei Opera, which was a huge amount of their market share in films. But of course, they also did their kung fu movies. They did their dramatic films. They would do their comedy films, and all sorts of different things. And there's so many other issues you can bring up about the fall of Shaw Brothers, but that's neither here nor there. But I think one of the bigger things was that the former head of production, a gentleman by the name of Leonard Ho, and another gentleman by the name of Raymond Chow. These were guys who were at the top of the game in terms of Shaw Brothers. They were in charge of production. They left. Now, some of this is due to issues of corruption, which, of course, a lot of that isn't mentioned. But I imagine people were getting kickbacks. I imagine all the whole thing of what involves corruption. But basically, they started their studio in 1970. Now, they started their studio out of a Coca-Cola factory, I believe, if I'm getting that right. I want to say that's where it was. But anyway, they did things completely differently, though. Raymond Chow and Leonard Ho basically just what's the word I'm thinking of? Basically, they rubber stamp things and said, okay, yeah, go ahead and produce it. Here's a check. Go for it. Especially in the early days, I was watching a documentary recently. They're talking about Warriors 2, directed by Sammo Hung Gumbo. And basically, they filmed a lot of that in South Korea. And of course, you had Casanova Wong, and you had I can't remember, Eagle. Anyway, the two Korean leads that were in that movie, of course, it's just interesting to see that that was filmed in Korea at that time. It was a fascinating, it's a fascinating story to get into. But I think what needs to be said, of course, is that with the Shaw Brothers is that, yeah, they did continue to lose money, and that they were kind of stuck in their own sort of thing by the 1970s. And they got overtaken by Jackie Chan. And I think, for example, compare two movies released in 1985. You had the final 36 chamber film, Disciples of the 36 Chamber, which of course had Gordon Liu. It had Siu Hao. It had, of course, Lau Kar-leung. And this was the last. It was the last in the trilogy of the 36 chamber movies, and it did about maybe. Let me look at HK Cinemagic so I can get a better idea. That was a 36 chamber. Okay, so not even 2 million. 1.595 million Hong Kong dollars in 1985. Compare that, and I just want to make sure here, because I relied on commentary that I heard from Bay Logan back in the day. So let me check here right quick. Police story. Ming Chuck Wu Si. I'm just showing off. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. That's not good of me. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here's a good comparison. This is 1985. Um, so Disciples of 36 Chamber. I think it had like a 2-week run. I think that was kind of average. I'm not sure on the details, but basically 1.595 million Hong Kong dollars. Versus same year, produced by Golden Harvest, Police Story, 26.6 million Hong Kong dollars. That's a huge separation. Where the third, is that Shaw Brothers couldn't even break 2 million for a film by Lau Kar-leung, versus, of course, Jackie Chan, who had did a little bit of stunt work at Shaw Brothers. Wasn't really a mainstay necessarily. He just did, work with his brothers, and very, like I say, there's a lot of stuff in between where you kind of be like, and just kind of go with the flow. But that's a heck of a comparison that you can do. One point, is that not even 2 million, approaching 30 million that Police Story made. And of course, he just called it Police Story because Jackie Chan didn't want to be, he didn't want, Hong Kong producers and directors to just steal the name. He just called it something generic. That was kind of the idea of it. But, it's interesting, very interesting talking about the business model of that. One last point, though. I'm kind of going long here. I'm just waiting for this video to upload. That way y'all can just watch that afterwards. But about the Shaw Brothers studio is that, let me see here. However, so they ceased production in 1986. I said 1987, but yeah. So 1986, they ceased production. And I heard from an interview by Kara Ying Hong. She was the lady from My Young Auntie, and she's, of course, done a lot of different work. Still getting awards to this day in film for her work. Is that they shut down they stopped doing the wuxia movies and stopped doing the real fancy, traditional kung fu movie type of thing. They stopped doing those in 1984. And that's kind of weird because, of course, if you really dig into it, once again, look up a title called Journey of the Doomed. And I don't think there are any indoor big sets like they did. So that may be kind of true, which is a movie with, once again, Kara Ying Hong. It's also got a lot of those folks who were kind of left, this is kind of their last movie, and then poof, they'd either go into TVB or go into something else. But that's what I was going to talk about next is TVB. I think what I'm looking at here, what I'm looking at here is that in, the 1960s, Malay film until 1967. What I really wanted to get into, I think it was, in the 1960s, Movie Town was the largest. They had 15 stages. 15 stages, 2 permanent sets, state-of-the-art filmmaking equipment and facilities, and 1,300 employees. It's amazing. It really is amazing. This is something that, just these numbers alone, I'm much more fascinated by that. I'm not a film auteur. It's like, I know what I like. I'm one of those type of guys. It's like, I know what I like. I don't really, the numbers are more fascinating to me. I'm more of that type of guy. But basically what I was going to talk about with TVB was that I believe in the 1960s, Run Shaw bought this fledgling TV studio, and they turned it into Television Broadcast Limited, you know, TVB. And so when they did that, yeah, let me see here. Look at the details here. But basically, with TVB, based in Hong Kong, let's look at the origins here. Okay. Okay, began operations 19 November 1967. So this is just before, this is right around the time of like one-armed swordsman, that type of era. And a lot of the time, these, some of the actors would go back and forth between TVB and, doing the movies. So it's kind of interesting to see that, yeah. Set up by, the government would set up a working party in the early 1960s to study the idea of setting up a second television station in Hong Kong, because they had ATV. That's what it was, yeah. And, okay. David Trench, okay, was the governor of Hong Kong. Just ignore the cat. But let's see here. Yeah, basically, yeah, third booster station was on there. Okay. But basically, yeah, 1967. So Run Run Shaw, of course, there were a lot of complaints because, of course, no unions at Shaw Brothers. A lot of the time, the pay was bupkis. A lot of the time, they offered, another interesting thing about Shaw Brothers, of course, is they offered Bruce Lee, I think, a standard contract of like, I want to say maybe the numbers kind of switch around a little bit, but about $500. They were just giving him such a lowball amount, and that was one thing. But they said, they told Bruce Lee, hey, you want to come see our movie? You want to come see this movie that we're doing? And the movie that they were doing was, at that time, was a Dit Long David Chang movie, where they were just throwing furniture around, at each other, and just kind of, it was just basically a ruckus. And, Bruce Lee was like, is this all you guys have? Is this what you're doing? And, there's a lot of going back and forth that we're never fully going to know. But within a certain amount of time, Bruce Lee signed with Golden Harvest. And from there, there you go. So he had, of course, done his movies with Lo Wei, who, of course, was very much kind of a mainstay in, in those types of movies. But, he went to Golden Harvest and did Way of the Dragon. And he did Fist of hold on. Let me get it right here, because sometimes it's I think it's Fist of Fury, because there's Fist of Fury and then there's Fist. Yeah, Fist of Fury. Yeah, Fist of Fury. That's it. If I'm thinking right. Yeah. Yeah. This is done by Yep. Once again, directed by Lo Wei, and this was 1972. Yeah, Fist of Fury, because the other one was, and AKA the Chinese Connection. The other one is Fists of Fury, which I think, let me see here if I got this right. Fists of Fury, The Big Boss, 1971. Is that also? Yeah, that was Golden Harvest too. Okay. So yeah. Okay, excuse me. So yeah, so he signed that contract and he got paid a lot better. And of course they did, his last official full movie, which of course was Enter the Dragon. And then of course he shot footage for the other movie. I can't think of the name of that offhand. It's going to bug the hell out of me now. Let me see. What was that name of that? Dragon? No. It's just footage that they took. Fist of Unicorn. Big Boss. Game of Death. There you go. And that was just, they just basically had the footage of him traveling up this pagoda of different things. So you see him fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You'll see him fighting Dan Inosanto. You'll see him fighting, I think, Wan In-shik in that movie. There's a lot of good footage in there. and they basically just, that's a whole different thing. But basically, Shaw Brothers didn't have that. It wasn't done in the same way. And Run Run Shaw, of course, definitely held a much tighter fist. No unions, like I said. There was no, the stuntmen got paid a lot better, and they were separate from the studio system. It was the actors that had to sign on long contracts, and of course, there's stuff that went back and forth. There's a lot of contention. That's really what I want to find out. There's a lot of contention because it's like, okay, for example, look up Ditlon, and of course, he had his problems with Shaw Brothers Studio because by the time 1978-79 rolled around, he did movies in the 80s. He wasn't at Shaw Brothers as much, and he went to Taiwan to do movies. And he didn't really like it there, but it sounds like that's kind of the issue. And then he came back to Shaw Brothers, and did movies like Opium and the Kung Fu Master, which great movie. And I think, maybe he did that more as it's interesting, of course, how the film business worked in Hong Kong and everything else. It's a lot of different stuff. But anyway, this is more just a random thing. I really want, there's a lot of stuff I need to flesh out, like I say. Maybe I'll re-listen to this and kind of get some better ideas. The same thing with Chen Quan Tai as well. Chen Quan Tai, of course, you can look him up. Was in movies like Boxer from Shantung. He sued Shaw Brothers and won. He went on to do movies like Iron Monkey, the original Iron Monkey, which was done in which was done in Taiwan. And he knew that the movie was going to make money because they only filmed it for I think $1 million, and they offered him $3 million, I want to say. That could be completely wrong. Like I said, that's kind of a disclaimer, but I think it's something like that. They offered him that much money, so he already knew he was going to make money. And that was, ironically, that was shot or at least I think was released kind of at the same time as 36 Chamber of Shaolin, 1977. But then, of course, Chen Quan Tai went back to Shaw Brothers, and he did movies like, once again, Killer Constable, another great movie. Did movies like, The Bastard Swordsman 2, or Return of Bastard Swordsman. He did, the gambling movies. I can't think of the names of those offhand, but, he did work at Shaw Brothers since. And, of course, he was also in the aforementioned Opium and the Kung Fu Master. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff. I'm just like, there's a lot of information that you can dig through, but I have a feeling I won't be able to find it because, like I say, the Chinese, they want to save face. That's kind of, if I've learned nothing about Asia in my very, very, very little experience, they want to save face. They don't want to reveal those mistakes. And I think a lot of those actors, of course, have died off. That's just how it goes. That's just the way it is. But I think that it'll be fascinating to see that information and see how that works. Because, of course, Shaw Brothers, of course, influenced so many different people. It influenced so many different folks. And, of course, you look at people like, I'm trying to think of their names offhand, but, a lot of information, and a lot of people that made Shaw Brothers what it is today, or at least made, action movies as they are today, I think, if nothing else, at least I kind of explained what I wanted to talk about in that video. But yeah, like I said, I think it'll be fascinating to say the least. But yeah, I think, like I say, I think at least in the immediate future, I will at least, I will go through propaganda. I'll probably do it the same way as I just did this last video. Tell me, please, please, please. I know no one's listening. I know no one's watching right now. That's fine. But please say down in the comments what you think of the audio. I try to turn down the audio real low and try to do it, I basically aped what other folks do. And I just kind of, I used background footage and just read the book. And of course, I stammer my way through it. That's typical. That's, I'm stammering. Excuse me. I'm stammering right now. But let me know what you think of the audio. I'm going to figure out a way If that doesn't, if y'all don't like it, let me know. And, that way we can get a better idea of what y'all think. And I don't know. I think that's it. But yeah, like I say, we will be reading propaganda. So we'll probably read through the first 2 chapters, which covers the first 24 pages. And it's interesting, they have notes where you can write stuff in here. So that's very interesting. This is, who does this? Who does the, oh, wow. Copyright 2019, Edward Bernays. Wow, okay. Bernays is the kind of guru. He was an authentic Roosevelt/Kennedy liberal. Huh. Wow. I almost want to read this now. I almost do, but I think we'll save that for a little bit later. And we'll at least go through, like I say, at least the first 24 pages. I think this is interesting. And of course, I'm going to turn on the camera just for a moment. I'm not going to show my face too much here. I will turn on the camera here just for a moment. There we go. Ah, you'll see my face there. We see Nancy Pelosi there. And then you got Mr. Schiff there. So, yeah, that's... so there we go. And this is 2019. So they... definitely very interesting, to say the least. They're keeping up with the times, definitely. Yeah. Like I say, I think this will be very important book. I know people have referenced it, but I think to me, maybe, and once again, maybe, I'm sure someone will see these videos, because one other thing, I'll just say this. You will notice that I privated all the videos that showed my face. And even though I just showed my face a little bit, it is what it is. But I felt I got kind of paranoid after all this TikTok drama of, these kids getting busted because they said, they did the N-word thing. And oh boy. But so I got kind of paranoid about that. Even though I didn't really say anything too spicy, what I think isn't that spicy is different compared to somebody else. So I said, okay, let's just private those videos. So I enlisted them. But yeah, varying quality, Like I say, we'll go through, propaganda. Maybe I'll do a brief stream tomorrow before I read propaganda to kind of talk about my review of State and Revolution after I've read through the whole thing. And I think I'll keep it there. I think that's pretty much it. Like I say, as you can tell, I was kind of I was trying to go from memory, which isn't as great as it used to be. But I will go through that a little bit and just kind of get an idea. Like I say, I am fascinated because, of course, I just, I like the Shaw Brothers films. They're easy to watch. They're something that you can just turn on, and you can get good commentary out of it. You can find good stuff. It's not just a foreign film. I know Americans hate foreign films. And I think that's something that obviously we have to work on because, the world is a big place, especially with China. Anywho, like I said, I think that's about it. I feel like there was something else I'm missing. Like I said, we'll probably, I'll have a review. I'll do State and Revolution. You know what? I'll turn this off and I'll just restart. I'll just do another one. I'm about to do that. And I think that's about it, though, really. In this portion, anyway. Yeah. Okay. I think I'll leave it there then. Maybe I'll remember it later. All right. See you later, folks.